All right, let's go to Capitol Hill now, where Ed O'Keefe is following reaction from Congress. Hey, Ed. So listen, it's still pretty early, but do we know what the response from Congress has been or will be as we move forward today?
Sure. Good morning, Anne-Marie. Look, Democrats are in full agreement with Republicans and the president on this. The General Soleimani is an enemy of the United States, given, as Michael Morell pointed out there, that he was responsible for organizing several kinds of attacks through the years, especially against U.S. military personnel in Iraq. But there is grave concern about the fact that this brazen attack occurred without congressional authorization. We were told last night, for example, that people like Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who should usually get some kind of a heads up, did not get one. Speaker Pelosi condemned the president's actions, saying, quote, "America and the world cannot afford to have tensions escalate to the point of no return." The chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee, Eliot Engel, said the attack raises serious legal problems and that he expects now that the president will follow the War Powers Act and give Congress notification of what was going on and what's next within 48 hours. On the other side of the aisle, however, Republicans are in lockstep with the president, say that the attack was a success and justified, again, given what General Soleimani has done, especially to American troops through the years. Take, for example, what Lindsey Graham, the president's close ally, said, quote, "If Iran continues to attack America and our allies, they should pay the heaviest of prices, which includes the destruction of their oil refineries." We'll likely also hear about this more today from Democratic presidential candidates as they mark 1 month until the Iowa caucus. Among others, last night, Bernie Sanders called this a targeted assassination. Elizabeth Warren raised concerns that this could lead to a costly war. Joe Biden said that the president now has essentially dropped a stick of dynamite into an already dicey situation and that the president owes the American people an explanation.
Yeah, you know, the thing about it is clearly both parties are celebrating the demise of this man. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to miss him, but certainly it appears that the criticism is falling along party lines in terms of the process and the lack of communication.
Exactly. And, you know, we'll see later this morning whether there's any sense of Republican concern about the lack of notification, in part because Senate leaders, Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer, are due to be up here for what's called a pro forma session, a very quick gavel in, gavel out kind of situation that they hold during breaks. But they're going to use that opportunity to actually update the country on where things stand on impeachment. At least that was the initial plan. We expect now that they will obviously have something to say about what transpired last night. But it's a reminder that, oh, by the way, there's that other thing that's been going on up here for several months that now could be clouded or complicated in some ways by what's transpired over the last week in the Middle East.
Yeah, definitely. So let's continue with some of the other things that are going to be bubbling up when it comes to politics. We've got Julian Castro. He's ended his presidential bid. What does this say about the race? How do you think perhaps the race will be impacted with him moving out? Or I don't know. He wasn't on the campaign. He wasn't on the last debate stage, was he? Can't recall now.
He wasn't. I mean, he was an early participant in debates, but didn't make the later fundraising and polling thresholds. And so essentially, like many others, had been sort of pushed off and started to suffer for that. Look, the race is now without a Latino candidate. What once had 28 contenders has been cut in half to a manageable 14, you might think. And we will probably see more contenders drop out in the coming days. Remember, fundraising quarter just ended this week. Many of them probably failed to meet their goals, and so those that really can't afford to continue, literally and figuratively, are more likely to hang it up here in the coming days.
Yeah, this is a crucial time, and a number of the candidates released their numbers for the last quarter of last year. And, you know, when it comes to sort of the higher-ranking candidates, we're seeing in the mid-20s, 23 million, 24, 25. And then there's the president, and he basically almost doubles what each individual Democratic candidate is raising. I think he's in the 40 million. There you go, 46 million. And I know that we often, if we're not looking at polls, we're looking at fundraising to determine the viability of a candidate or the popularity of a candidate. But here we have, you know, 3 and 4 Democratic candidates competing against the numbers that the singular Republican candidate, the president, is raising. Yep. So I'm wondering, how do we interpret these numbers?
Well, a few things. the president can raise money solely for a general election campaign at this point, because while he does have one or two primary opponents left, they're not registering the polls. They won't be a big factor. And frankly, many states are canceling their Republican primaries, given just the overwhelming popularity of the president. So he may be sitting on a war chest of more than $100 million, but that's in part because he's not facing a primary challenger and essentially can now just wait out whoever the Democratic nominee is. If you add up all the money raised by Democrats in the fourth quarter and compare it to all the money raised by the president, yes, they surpass him. Why is that? Isn't necessarily just Democratic enthusiasm. It is that they themselves are actually out there doing what they're doing. But remember, the money they're raising, most of it, is for the primary. So they'll have to go raise a whole new pool of money to compete with that $100 million plus that the president already has set aside. And one bit of context, there's been inflation. It's easier to raise money online now than it was 8 years ago, sorry. But if you compare what President Trump has in the bank now with what Barack Obama had in the bank in late 2011 going into his 2012 reelection, the president tops him by about $40 million.
Wow, that is really interesting stuff. Ed O'Keefe, thank you so much.